Hi, I'm Kenny Klaus, and this is State 48 Homeowner.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the State 48 Homeowner Podcast. And today we have Master Financial Coach Caroline Kelly with us. Welcome back. It was great having you on before. There was a lot of people that sent in messages and how good it was, comments and all that kind of stuff. So that people loved it.
Great. Thank you for having me again. It was a great time. It was a great conversation. I'm excited to talk about this too.
So one of the big goals that people have when they're talking to a financial coach is homeownership.
Yes.
And it is a big difference, from going from renting to owning a home. And I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are homeowners, but I think we all have people that are in our lives that are renting, and we, as homeowners, we see so much possibility for people that sometimes they don't see in themselves. And, when you look at the difference in net worth between renters and homeowners, it's just one thing has changed in their life, that they're their own landlord.
Yes.
And because it's you still have a housing cost.
Yes.
Whether you're renting or you own.
Yes.
And it's just who that check is going to. Most
Correct.
people go, well, it's either going to my landlord or the bank. And I think that's false.
I agree.
Because you write the check to the bank, but the check is actually going to you because it's building equity.
Right. There's this thing on your mortgage statement called principal. Mm-hmm. That's the me line.
Yeah. The interest is the bank line. That's the evil part that in the beginning, you're paying a whole lot of that. But the longer you're in the home, the more of your payment is actually going to principal and knocking that down. And it is frustrating, the first couple years when you're not seeing that payoff number go down.
Correct.
Because it doesn't go down that much. It just trickles. But after you've been in the home for 5-10 years, it really starts to drop and go down. So I mentioned the net worth between renters and homeowner. Renters were under 10,000 usually.
Correct.
Most net worth for renters is under 10,000.
I agree.
Most homeowners are, at least 150, usually 250 and above. Yep. And just that difference of having that home. And the longer you're a homeowner, the more that changes because you've built up equity. Even if you go and put it into another home, that equity is still there.
Yes.
It's something that you're able to keep and able to invest in other things. So I want to talk today with you and with our friends here on what it looks like to shift the gears into homeownership. If we've been a habitual renter or if we have been a homeowner in the past and made a change and went back to renting, how do we get back into homeownership?
Perfect.
So what are the first steps that you take with people that you coach?
The first thing that I hear from people who want to be homeowners, and they say, I want to own a home. This is exactly what they say. I want to own a home someday.
Yeah.
And I stop
it's never
right
next
there.
Week.
Yeah. I'm like, it takes me back to that song, right? Someday never comes. So we stop right there. True. We stop right there. And it's like, when's someday? And they have to think. They sit and think. And they're like, I want to do it in the next 5 years. Okay. What's that going to look like? And we sit down and look at that. It's a big thing. When you say, I want to be a homeowner, and you stop at that point, you are cutting yourself short. I want to be a homeowner in the next 2 years, in the next year, in the next 3 years. And how now you can get the how to it. How are we going to do that?
It's crazy that once we set a date to something, the entire conversation and everything changes. And I don't remember if it was Lou Holtz or Zig Ziglar, one of them it was talking about, we only have so much time. And yet it's crazy if our boss comes to us and says, hey, I have an all expense paid trip to Acapulco that leaves tomorrow that I can't go on. Would you like to do it? And you're going to be gone for a week.
Yep.
Everybody seems to just magically all of a sudden be able to finish up everything they need to do in the next week by the end of the day so that they can go to Acapulco.
Yeah.
If we set that deadline in there, things just roll into place because we're focused, because we are intent on making those. That intention is huge. And if we have that intention, we have that motivation, it's crazy how much stuff we can get done.
Yeah, because your why is bigger than anything that comes up to it. And when your why is bigger, you can oversee and overcome anything.
The Klaus team is different. With the Klaus team, you have someone on your side. Where you live and make memories is important. We have more unique strategies than anyone else to help you accomplish what matters most to you. We can help you with traditional real estate as well as other options such as our lease purchase programs. We can help you buy first then sell, and we can bring you instant offers. We're here to help our neighbors achieve the American dream and help them build wealth through home ownership. For more info or to start your home search, visit us online at klausteam.com. So what habits do we generally need to change when we're making that move from I'm going to be a renter here forever to, hey, in the next year, in the next 6 months, in the next year and a half, 2 years, I want to be a homeowner?
Well, number one, the first thing is get a team around you, right? Do some investigation. Don't just say, I want to. Understand what is going to take to get to that goal. Make sure you understand, I want to buy a house in this period of time. Here's where I'm at. What do I need to do in the next year to get to that point? And you want a good realtor, you want a good broker, maybe have a coach on your side say, where's the money going, right? What can we do for that, right? And then when you see where you're at and you know where you want to go, you can make a path. It may be some overtime. It might be some side gigs for a little bit to bring in some money for a down payment or to move over, right? That's a big part of this. But until you get clear on where you are and where you want to be, you can't get anywhere.
Yeah. And I think it's huge. You mentioned to find a team.
Yes.
And it's, I think we all know real estate agents. We all know financial people. We all know lenders. And if we don't, we know where to find them online.
Correct.
A lot of those folks are really focused on what's happening now and am I going to see results now? What people really want to find is people that are partners, but also guides.
Yes.
When we watch a movie, how often is it in the movie that you see somebody find in Act 1 that they have a problem that needs to be solved?
Yes.
And they immediately go to Act 3 and the problem is solved.
Yes.
And they've figured out how to do it on themselves.
Never.
In most movies, there's a buddy, there's a guide, there's somebody that can help them. When we look at, let's throw out a movie here, Hunger Games.
Yes.
You've got Katniss Everdeen. She needs to go fight to the death in whatever tournament that they've got. And we see her, she's the hero. We celebrate that she's able to. I don't want to give away the end of the movie, but she wins.
I love it.
And she gets to the end, she wins.
Right.
But she wouldn't have been able to do it without Woody Harrelson. I don't know what Woody Harrelson's name is in the movie.
I don't know either.
He's what we call the guide.
Yeah.
She's the hero. He's the guide.
Absolutely.
And the whole point of the guide is getting the hero from point A to point B.
Yes.
And there's a lot of folks that do operate that way. The Klaus team is one of them. Our lender partner is one of them. You're one of them.
Yeah.
And we like to be partners with people that aren't just going to say, oh, you're not ready to buy a house today.
Yeah.
Call us when you are.
Yeah.
We're kind of a little bit different. We want to take people and walk alongside them and go, hey, I love this dream that you have. Yeah. I want to help make that a reality. Sometimes it takes longer than others. We were talking just a couple minutes ago that, we've dealt with people for a while sometimes.
Yes,
and we helped somebody buy a house not long ago, a couple months ago, that had actually come into our family here, started the conversation back in early 2013 about how they want to be a homeowner. Yeah. And they were able to finally close on their home in 2023. Yes. And we've walked alongside them that entire time and loved doing it. And so it does, setting the goal and making those first steps. And yes, there's some habits that we have to change.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. There's a difference between this when you get a team around you that have hearts of teachers that care about your success. That's a big part here. And when you talk to people, you can tell if they just want to want your success or not. And so I love what you were saying about that. It's a big part of home ownership is to have the right team around you, to have the right people around you that want the best for you.
And, as people have habits that they need to change, you do a lot of calls with people.
Yes.
How often is it the exact same call as the last time? Everybody has different habits that they have to break.
Everyone has different habits, different situations, different life stages, right? And as in every life stage, people say, what does this look like for me? Well, it's not going to look the same for you as it's going to be for the next person, or the guy at the water cooler at work that's saying, hey, you should do this. But they don't know really where you're at. Getting that information and saying what's best for me and my situation is going to be the most important for you. Everybody who wants to buy a home.
So if you looked at all of the people that you've coached as a microcosm, what are the most common habits that need to be broken?
The most common habit is not even knowing where your money went. Yeah. It's like autopilot. We're on autopilot. Well, you don't do autopilot all the time. My husband's a pilot, right? So autopilot, you don't do autopilot. And they never autopilot takeoff and landing. Yeah. Like seriously, autopilot doesn't do it. That's why they're there, right? Autopilot can help in the air, but same thing with a plane, right? That propulsion and the landing is where you use most of your gas. So really make sure you're in the right direction. Make sure you're in the right place. Don't live life on autopilot thinking that something's going to fall from the sky and a house is going to show up and it's going to be like, oh, it's not going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen here. So really stop living life on autopilot.
Okay. What are some other things?
Really start looking at your expenses. Number one, the biggest thing people say is, oh, I need this. Do you really need it? Maybe not. Is it bringing you closer or further away from your goals? And sometimes we have these I need to spend in our budgets because there's something a little bit more there, right? There's a little more going on that we work on as we go through processes with people. But there's a little more going on there. Is this really bringing you closer to your goal? Is this holding you back? What's going on here?
Is it making you happy?
Is it making you happy? Yeah.
I'd ask when, think of the biggest purchase that you've made in a while and think back, does it give you joy? Now, when you open the box, it might have given you a little, oh, cool, I got that. But does it bring you joy? And I've had the privilege to go to different places throughout the world and work with some folks in various instances, and in some impoverished areas of Mexico, in some of the poorest places in Africa, and where people have nothing. They have no streaming service, no, some instances, no power, no off-the-counter toys. It's improvised toys, and yet you look around at people and children, and you just see unbridled joy. At where they're at, and there is an ability to find happiness without having lots of possessions, new possessions, and things that we pay for every month. There's an ability to find joy and happiness, and to be able to transition from, okay, I'm getting some joy from the streaming service or this, or, not having to go out to get my food, having it delivered to my house. But can I transition from that for a period of time to reposition my potential joy at making a huge life change and transitioning from being a renter to a homeowner just by giving up some stuff for a temporary time. And I may be able to come back to a time where I can have every meal delivered to my door, but can I give that up for a period of time to be able to save up some resources to make a big change?
Yeah. And you make a good point on this joy situation. The joy really is the joy. There's a short-term joy out of this. But the thing is when you have joy in your life for a long-term goal, there's contentment between that now and then. And that really is a big part of what I help people with. We shift from these moments of happiness, little inspirational happiness moments, to longer contentment, knowing they're working towards something that's bigger and better for them. And so many people kind of, like you asked, what did most people do? Well, one of the biggest ones is they beat themselves up for what they did 2 years ago, because now they're cleaning it up, right? And I said, well, you don't like the 2 year ago you. But what about the you 3 years from now? What about that you 3 years from now? Do you want to be able to say, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of that change I made. Good job 3 years ago, you, right? It's kind of that little situation. And when you start to look at that in that timeline phrase and say, I do want to buy a house in 3 years. And I want to look back and be proud of myself for being able to get there because I took the action. I did what I wanted to do. I still had joy throughout the process and happiness, but now I have a bigger, I also made my goals.
Yep.
And that's a big one here. And that in that contentment in knowing that you can have fun in your life, but you balance it out with what you need to do in long term, right?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Kenny Klaus with Klaus Team Real Estate Solutions. We know there's a lot of confusion in today's market, whether it's billboards, TV, radio, mail, everyone's trying to get your attention. They offer one lane, where at the Klaus Team, we have over 20 different programs we can help you navigate through to find out what's best for you. And remember, we work for you, they work for themselves. We're here to represent you and make sure you have the best experience possible.
Visit us at klausteam.com/call us first. So as people are making that decision to move from renting to home ownership, I can tell you that there's a lot of times that people will delay meeting with a lender.
Yeah.
And say, well, I haven't really found kind of the house that I'm looking for.
Right.
I haven't really decided. I will tell people we want to prepare for buying far before we're ready.
Yes.
There's so many benefits to that. It's not crazy to fill out a loan application with a lender. There's not a whole lot of stuff that you have to include out the get-go.
Yeah.
There's some W-2s. You probably have to, dig up your tax returns, a couple bank statements, and, prove your identity. And they're going to be able to say, hey, this is really where we're at.
Yeah.
And based on where you're at, we'll change your interest rate, and your interest rate, and your spending power is all determined to come up to a number and says this is the number that you can purchase at. But we can also look and go, okay, well, if I bought a little bit lower than that, then here my payment would be less, and those kinds of things. But starting with a lender early on in the process allows you to see more opportunities to change those habits as well.
Correct.
And to correct some things. We might find out that we have some medical debt that we weren't aware of. Correct. We might realize that we had forgotten about a card or a couple payments somewhere along the journey that we can rectify that.
Right.
I've told it on the podcast before. I'll tell it again here. There was one time I was purchasing and, the lender said, hey, do you still have this card?
Yeah.
And we said, yeah, we do. We never use it. He says, go to Circle K and buy a Slim Jim. Then come home at the end of the month, let it go for a couple weeks. At the end of the month, pay it off.
Yeah.
And we did that, and the credit score jumped substantially. Crazy.
Yes.
There's little things that people can look at and say, this is what we can do. And we could set those goals and we can find ourselves in a better position. And the other thing that I'll mention on why we want to prepare before we're ready, there's been a lot of times that I've been working with a buyer that they're just not ready to talk to the lender. I want to go see this house, and they do find the perfect house.
Yes.
And it's gone by the time they get the pre-qual.
Yeah. The heartbreak of what could have been, right? That's what I call it, is the heartbreak of what could have been. And if you just sit back, people I work with, similar to what you do, people I work with that say, I want to buy a home. When we look at everything, I say, where do you stand in this process? And they don't know. And I said, how can you get to where you want to be if you don't know where you stand now? And really connecting and saying, I'm not in the right now moment of buying it, but I'm looking for this period of time. Tell me where I'm at. Let's make a plan to get me there. And then how do I need help to get there?
There's also times that people will self-remove themselves from qualification.
Yes.
And they'll say, there's no way that I'll qualify. There's no way that I can do that. We have worked with people through various markets.
Yeah.
I remember we started to do, a couple years ago, we started to do this program called Road Back Home. We're coming out of the crazy market where a lot of people lost their homes.
Yes.
And those seasoning dates were approaching. People were getting to the point where they could qualify for a loan again.
Yes.
And we had a family come, and they told us, we're still a year or two out from being able to qualify.
Yep.
And we said, well, just, do the app anyway. Yep. While we're here, we're going to talk through all these, what it looks like to go through the process. And the loan officer came back and realized she had actually done things under a specific program that she walked out of the room with the pre-qualification and she actually closed on her home 40 days later.
There's such a misconception sometimes. And I think it's just lack of knowledge, right? Like we talked about, lack of knowing that you think, but you don't know. And really that's what I do with people is, do you really know this fact? And is this really the truth? I'm never going to be able to do this. Really? And they look back and their credit score goes up, 5 points, 10 points, 50 points, 100 points, because they're working in the right direction towards their goals.
And there's misconceptions people have that they need to have 20% down and then they need to have a credit score of 850. And neither of those are true. You do have to have a decent credit score for most programs. There's some programs where it's smaller and of course the costs are going to rise with that. You do not need 20% down. I think a lot of people think, the 3.5% is FHA. Well, there are 3% conventional programs. If you're a veteran, 0%. And there's actually some programs for people that are first-time home buyers. And guess what? First-time home buyers means that you're not currently living in a home.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of opportunities for people that you don't have to save up 20% of the price of a home. And home prices have gone up. And so that 20% has gone up as well.
Absolutely.
Beyond just the lender, beyond, getting on with a realtor and start looking at homes, what are some other steps that people should be making to prepare for that transition from renting to homeownership?
Well, renting to homeownership, you need to look at the whole process, right? There's lots of different stages of homeownership, right? There's of course, you're working towards what does it look like to purchase the home, but also there's the move, right? Yeah. What's that going to look like? And being able to go ahead and say after the move, what are we going to need or want or have into this new home? What are we bringing into it? What are we going to need as we're in it? As we're moving into a new home. And those 3 items are really the most important parts of home ownership. It's not just getting to the home, it's the whole thing here. And really having those 3 items in a budget that says buying the home, moving, owning a home.
And if I'm living in a new neighborhood, am I figuring in, if I needed to go further out, am I adding in the gas cost?
The gas costs of moving.
And is it going to cost more for me to cool and heat the house than it did before because it's a bigger house?
Yes.
Or is it going to cost me less?
Yes.
Little things too when we move, if there's no window coverings with the house, and new builds aren't going to have those. Right. A lot of times resale will. Am I going to incorporate those? Are there things that I'm going to need to buy out the gate? But if my payment's different, what are my plans for making that happen?
What's the plan if the payments are going to be different? If it's going up $100 or $200, is it going down $100 or $200? What does that look like? The big part is if you're moving from one part of an area way over 50 miles away and work is by your old home, what's that going to look like? What's transportation looking like? That's a big one, especially when we're dealing with economy things and stuff like that.
Gas, where it's
gas, yes, gas.
So when someday happens, let's talk about what does that process look like. And what's crazy, it's far easier than people think.
It is.
It's you're going to find a new best friend in your agent because you're going to spend a lot of time together talking about did we like the houses that we either saw that we're sending you, or when we went out, what do we like about it? What do we not like about it? And there's some things that have to be in place for us to make that move. The pre-qualification has to be in hand. In Arizona, you cannot offer on a home. It will not be accepted without a pre-qualification or a proof of funds.
There you go.
And so you got to have that to make that first step. And then when you do, we write the offer. Yeah. It's accepted and we move through. There's a couple of costs that you'll have to have up front. One is earnest money, which is, We can talk about, what it's like in that particular price point, what's normative, correct, but that's putting some skin in the game.
Yeah.
And if you end up not liking the house and we cancel it in the right way, you get that back.
Yes.
And then there's a couple other things, home inspection.
Right.
And, sometimes we have to pay for appraisal out of pocket as
correct,
well. So, right around $1,000 often.
Yes.
For the two of those, give or take a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the down payment at closing time, but it becomes very easy. And, there's some things that help too when you work with the Klaus team. We have a free moving truck that you can use and save some costs there.
There you go.
And, there's a couple of extra things that we do there. But, we're also at the same time, we're looking at making changes, making sure we're, stopping the utilities that we have, putting things in place. Depending on where your credit is, you might have to, have a deposit there, maybe or maybe not. But it's much easier than people think.
It is.
And the entire process. And so, when we're shifting the gears into home ownership, it's primarily a mental thing.
It is a mental thing, and you're working on those 3 steps, but you always want to be working on the step you're on, but have a vision of that horizon of those other things happening. And when do we need to shift into the next stage to save for? And that's a big part. And on my end, when I help with people in their financial behaviors is, okay, are we looking ahead at what this is going to look like? And like you said, when you get around the right team, they can say, this is what it's going to look like for closing at the purchase level, right? And then afterwards, what's this going to look like? And having someone around you to be able to do that and then say, how do we get you there? What does this look like to do this where you're at? What does it need to be looking like? And on a daily basis, after you're in this home, what does your budget, what does your financial future look like when you're in here?
So if somebody is 6 months out, 2 years out, or if they're still in the someday phase, how do they get a hold of you and start to make some steps to a better credit score, to better finances?
Absolutely. They can reach out to me at ramseycoach.com/fit financial coaching. And they can also reach out to me at 602-909-0112.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us this week at State 48 Homeowner, the ins and outs of owning an Arizona home. You can connect with us for more information, submit topics you'd like us to further discuss. You can see relevant videos, give us feedback, answer your real estate questions, and more at state48homeowner.com.